Good afternoon to one and all present here. Today we are here for the national seminar on AI and literature, and we have integrated with the Department of Chemistry and Department of English. So today, as our session chair, we have Dr. Tejal Ravia, and to welcome her, I would like to invite Dilip Bharat sir to share his few words.
To very briefly introduce the chairperson of this session here, Dr. Tejal Ravia. She is working as a GES, Gujarat Educational Services Class 2 officer after clearing GPSC exam with Koga Government College. So we warmly welcome you here for accepting our invitation to chair the session here. And we will have a welcome with the token of gift, and then we will ask her to continue with the session. So you can anchor the thing for the people to come, and then you scoring it.
So first and foremost, we have Sejad Ahmed Bhai Chokia, and the topic which he is covering for his paper presentation is antagonism as stimulation, rethinking the science literature divide in the age of AI and post-truth.
अक्सर यह माना जाता है कि विज्ञान तथ्य और प्रमाण की भाषा बोलता है, जबकि साहित्य कल्पना, अनुभव और मानवीय संवेदना होती है। लेकिन क्या यह विभाजन वास्तव में इतना स्पष्ट है? क्या विज्ञान केवल तथ्यों तक सीमित है और साहित्य कल्पना तक, या फिर इन दोनों के बीच का यही तनाव नए विचारों, नई समझ और नए ज्ञान को जन्म देता है? इन्हीं सवालों के संदर्भ में मेरा रिसर्च पेपर विज्ञान और साहित्य के बीच के संबंधों का एक नए दृष्टिकोण से संबंध को एक नए दृष्टिकोण से समझने का प्रयास करता है. Greetings to all. I'm Sejat Chokya, and my paper, Antagonism as a Stimulation, Rethinking the Science Literature Divide in the Age of Post-Present, examines the long-standing debate between science and literature and argues that the tension between these two domains can actually stimulate intellectual growth rather than simply create division. Science emphasizes empirical observation and verification, while literature engages with imagination and narrative interpretation. Historically, these divides led to a perceived separation between the two cultures of science and the humanities by C.P. Snow. The relationship has always been interdependent. Scientific advances inspire literary imagination and critique. Literature examines the ethical and cultural aspects of scientific progress. In the age of AI and post-truth culture, questions of knowledge, authority, and truth have become complex. Narrative persuasion competes with empirical evidence. Boundaries between scientific and literary discourse are increasingly blurred. My research question for this paper is that how has the divide between science and literature shaped different ideas of knowledge and truth? In what ways do artificial intelligence and digital technologies challenge the traditional boundaries between scientific knowledge and literary imagination? How does the rise of post-truth culture affects the authority of scientific knowledge and the role of narrative in shaping public understanding? Can the tension between science and literature become a productive space for ethical thinking and interdisciplinary dialogue? My research objectives are to examine the historical divide between science and literature and its impact on different ways of understanding knowledge and truth, to explore how artificial intelligence and digital technologies are reshaping the boundaries between scientific knowledge and literary imagination, to analyze the influence of post-truth culture on the authority of scientific knowledge and the role of narrative in public discourse, to investigate how the tension between science and literature can generate critical reflection and encourage interdisciplinary dialogue. The study hypothesized that if the divide between science and literature is understood as productive antagonism rather than a rigid disciplinary barrier, then the resulting interdisciplinary dialogue will offer more effective ways of addressing the epistemic uncertainties of the contemporary AI-driven post-truth era, to investigate how the tension between science and literature can generate critical reflection and encourage interdisciplinary dialogue. Let's start with the two culture debate. The lecture by C.P. Snow named Two Culture Debates. The science literature divide is often traced C.P. Snow's lecture, The Two Culture. Snow argues that intellectual life had split into two communities, scientific synthesis and literary intellectuals, leading to a lack of mutual understanding. Both scientific knowledge and humanitic understanding are necessary for addressing social and intellectual problems. Scientific knowledge and paradigms. Thomas Gunn argues that scientific progress occurs in paradigm shift, where prevailing frameworks are replaced by new ones when they can't explain emerging phenomena. Shows that science is shaped by conceptual and historical conditions, not entirely neutral. Knowledge, narrative, and interpretation. Hidden White suggests that historically explanations are shaped by narrative frameworks that organize events. Michel Foucault argues that systems of knowledge are shaped by discursive practice, which determines what is considered legitimate truth. Rethinking the divide, science and literature both engage in interpretation and knowledge formation. The tension reflects different approaches to understanding realities rather than the conflict between objectivity. In the contemporary era, the development of artificial intelligence and digital technologies has transformed how knowledge is produced and articulated. Gian Francisco Lyotard argues that in computerized societies, knowledge increasingly becomes information that can be stored and transmitted through technological systems. At the same time, Anke Catherine Haley suggests that the boundaries between human cognition and technological systems are becoming increasingly blurred. Donna Hathaway's concept of the cyborg further illustrates this hybrid condition where distinctions between human and machines are no longer stable. Meanwhile, Noah Harari argues that advanced algorithms can analyze massive amounts of data and perform tasks previously associated with human intelligence. As today, AI is doing such tasks which are previously not done by human as much as efficiently, as much as the way of doing AI, rather than the doing work of human mind and human potential. The work which done by AI has that smoothness, has that counter arguments, has that smoothness and intellectual boundaries which are previously lacking in human things. uh, Post-truth culture and crisis of epistemic authority, knowledge and power. Michel Foucault argues that scientists accept as truth is shaped by system of discourse and institutional authority. Knowledge gains authority through network that determine network split. Ideas spring will is due of the reasoning, digital media and algorithmic influence. According to the Michel Foucault, societies accept as truth is shaped by system of power and discourse. In the digital age, knowledge is increasingly mediated by technological platforms and algorithms. From this perspective, the tension between science and literature should not simply be seen as conflict, but instead it can be function as productive intellectual relationship. Scientific developments introduce new questions about technology, identity, and the future of humanity. At the same time, literature provides a space to critically examine the ethical and human implications of these developments. Thus, the antagonism between these disciplinaries can be stimulate new interdisciplinary insights and intellectual growth. Okay, let's conclude the topic. The long-standing divide between science and literature has often been interpreted as conflict between empirical objectivity and imaginating interpretation. However, the study has shown that the relationship between the two disciplines is more complex than a simple opposition. The debate articulated by Sneepy Snows revealed a cultural separation between scientific and literary communities, yet later theoretical perspective demonstrate that both forms of knowledge are shaped by historical frameworks, narrative structure, and institutional context. My institutional context belong to literature, someone else's belong to the science field. Then his idea of debating on both these two aspects of science and literature can be different. For someone, if he belong to the field of science, this debate can be different. As I am, and we are present here. Many of us are belong to the field of literature. For us, this debate has different form. But at the same time, the results and the perspectivism and the idea of connecting the thoughts and to understand both this topic on our own way has something inside it. Inside is that is called concept. My concept of looking at is different. Your concept is looking at is different. That's why the results of the debates depend on the person who is debating and depend on the person who is doing who's debating for and who is debating in the side of literature and science. Science as an intellectual challenge challenges literature with new forms of knowledge and reality. Jean-Francois Lyotard, knowledge is shaped by system of information and computation. Productive tension is that from this perspective, the antagonism between science and literature should not be understood simply as a disciplinary conflict. Instead, this tension can function as a productive intellectual force. Literature provides critical reflection on the ethical and human consequences of scientific advancement, while scientific developments of challenge literary thought to engage with new forms of knowledge and challenging conceptual of reality. Here are the works cited, and this is from my side. Questions are welcome. Yes.
What their objectives? Can we get back to it? Then, these are a historical debate between science and literature.
Not perfectly, but it is depend on people's perspective. That historical debate, as I'll give you the simple example. For me, literature gives me the way of seeing life logically, rationally, and statistically. While on the other hand, science has given me the way of looking at life systematically, logically, and rationally. The very statistic way of looking at life and living life. Giving you a simple example. But while on the other hand, literature gives that spot to explore my own self, to explore my imagination, and to explore that insight and the soft corner of my heart. The idea of putting historical dividation in objective is to saw the debates which are જે આટલા સમયથી જે debates ચાલતી આવી રહી છે literature versus science from in the institution, in public spaces, in various conferences, in various discussions is always uh, literature versus science, but why they are not looking at it that આ જે conflict છે એને એક એવા દ્રષ્ટિકોણથી કેમ ન જોવો કે આ એક અલગ પ્રકારની ચર્ચા અને વાદ વિવાદને જન્મ આપે છે જેમાંથી નવી ચર્ચા, નવા વિચારો અને કંઈક એવું નવું નીકળશે જે વધુ હકારાત્મક સાબિત થશે.
Is there a historical debate actually, or is it a recent debate? So,
If you, I connect.
He was
Yes.
He was a sculptor, he was an astronomer, he was an astrologer.
Yes.
So historical divides है क्या नहीं है? वो शुरू के हाँ तो recent divides.
Yeah.
Historically, it is not like that. People in the universities have started this debate to run their own market. Actually, people who were painters long back also very good at science.
Yeah.
You read this book, Fluid. I don't remember the author. Fluid वाचो. Fluid में वे examples से देखो वो पहला science में literature ने एक साथ divide not the historical divide, it is actually a recent divide. And it is a divide created by people who are working in the university.
Intellectuals.
So called.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this is how we then run the market of debates, which are actually not required.
Yeah.
Good paper. Good one. Thank you. So it was not a question, it was just an observation. There is no historical debate.
Thank you so much, everyone, once again.
Thank you, Shehzad. Now, further, I would like to invite Shruti Sonani, and her topic of presentation is Beyond the Discipline, a theatrical and pedagogical comparison of literary and scientific learning through Notebook LM and Google Classroom in rural undergraduate classrooms. Greetings to all. I am Shruti Sonani, postgraduate student at Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar CG, Bhavnagar University, Bhavnagar. So my paper titled Beyond the Disciplines, a theoretical and pedagogical comparison of literary and scientific learning through Notebook LM and Google Classroom in rural undergraduate classrooms. So the purpose of this study is to examine an action research approach, how Notebook LM supports this critical engagement with handicapped and adults house in undergraduate rural classroom, and to explore that how Notebook LM sources this restricted AI design can support scientific learning, and
also to analyze that how Google Classroom supports formative assessment. So this is purpose of this study. Then the study compares two different approaches, like a literary pedagogy and scientific pedagogy, and it examines that how digital tools such as the Notebook LM and Google Classroom can support learning in both fields. And the uh, literary section is based on action research, and the scientific pedagogy section is discussed conceptual. So ultimately, this study suggests that the true potential of digital tools that lies not simply in a technological innovation, but in their ability to transform pedagogy and this encourage critical engagement and also the build meaningful connection across these disciplines. So that is the answer. This study hypothesized that digital humanities tools such as Notebook LM and Google Classroom, when used with clear pedagogical frameworks and context-sensitive strategies, can effectively support critically thinking, inquiry-based learning, and formative assessment across both literary and scientific pedagogy in rural undergraduate classrooms, thereby helping bridge the educational divide between the humanities and STEM disciplines, like STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Then research question also. Then the contemporary rural undergraduate classrooms stand at a critical crossroad. On the one side, the premises of digital innovation, and on the other, there are infrastructural limitations and digital literacy gaps. So that is the main concern we can find here. So it's grounded in the ideas of Paul Ferrier, who argues that authentic education must move beyond passive reception of knowledge towards dialogic and inquiry-based engagement. And this paper places its investigation within the rural undergraduate. So this study is grounded in 7 converging frameworks. Like first is Prairie dialogic pedagogy, views that education is a transformative and problem-posing process. And then Bloom's revised taxonomy explores the progression from this recall to the higher order thinking, and is such as analysis, evaluation, and creation. Then Chemis and McTaggart action research model structures that research process, plan, act, observe, and reflect. So together, this framework ensure that technological advancement or innovation with strong pedagogical foundations. Then method and methodology, that in literary pedagogy, we have this action research, and then in scientific pedagogy, this theoretical and conceptual analysis. Then notebook LM and literary pedagogy. So in literary pedagogy, notebook LM works only with user uploaded text and sources, so that students directly engage with their text. Like here we have put this text, a doll's house. So and also this, in this way, the tool function as a mind tool that supports and extend critical thinking rather than replacing it. And here we have this cycle, action research cycle, that first plan, then action, then observe and reflect. That first integrate notebook LM into the classroom and position student as a co-investigator. Then act like a students explore themes such as Nora's characterization, marriage, and social confinement, such as. And then observe that students demonstrate deeper engagement with the ideological dimension of the play. Then reflect that the approach shows strength in encouraging evidence-based literary analysis. So this evidence-based literary analysis we can find in both scientific pedagogy and as well as in literary pedagogy. Then this notebook element, scientific pedagogy. So custom reports help synthesize data and concept core ideas, and it aligns with the next generation science standards, and this next generation science standards is a research based science education, and it's provided that how science is taught and research. Then cross-cutting concepts, that flashcards and quizzes helps student to identify patterns, cause and effect relationships, and it's also the provides a higher order thinking. Then the science and engineering practices, that the query function of notebook LM supports the claim evidence reasoning approach by guiding students to construct argument based on uploaded lab data and scientific sources. So that is the helpful for students. And these are this is the CER framework that claim evidence and reasoning, that the claim that a hypothesis developed from uploaded sources, and evidence specific data point or observation, that what they find, and then reasoning, that scientific principle that connect the evidence to the claim. So that in this process, notebook LM function as a guided inquiry tool and encouraging analytical reasoning rather than providing direct answer. So that is the main, and also one main helpful feature that we can find, that audio overview, that this is helpful for scientific pedagogy, that this feature support the principle of universal design for learning, and by offering multiple ways of presenting information, which can be especially helpful for rural learners with limited print literacy. Then it follows, and it follows the feedback model, that feed up, feedback, and feed forward. That in this, that clarify learning goals through assignments and rubrics, and then we have this allow instructors to provide comment and annotation, and then third one is that it will help students to this revision and reflection. So that is no, there is no data. Then structural convergence across the humanities. So this literary pedagogy relies on interpretive analysis, close reading, and where evidence is not textual. Then scientific pedagogy relies on empirical inquiry and CER argumentation, and where evidence is experimental data. So, and here we can find that close reading and evidence analysis both requires close attention to primary materials, patterns, and recognition and evidence-based argument, and then interpretive argument and CER reasoning. So here also both move from observation to argument. Then these are some challenges: infrastructural gap, digital literacy deficits, and institutional unpreparedness. And context-sensitive strategies, the scaffolded digital onboarding and hybrid offline-online design, that is some beneficial for them to learn something that live learning or involved, and institutional advocacy. Then key findings, that notebook LM source constraint design promotes genuine critical thinking, and notebook LM theoretically support all their NGSS dimension, like next generation science standards, NGSS. And literary and scientific pedagogy share a hidden structural logic, and rural challenges are real but solvable. And the rural classroom is site of possibility, not just limitation. So this one example from notebook LM, that how it works and how it give us all the information in short, and so student can learn easily and get information. So this paper demonstrates that digital humanities tool notebook LM in Google Classroom have real transformative potential for rural undergraduate pedagogy across the humanities STEM divide. So this is from my side, and these are the references. If you have any question.
You came to Balika.
No, for this. No, this is for my dissertation.
I find one problem with notebook LM. This is just an observation out of my personal experience. I get it. એક વાર એવું કર્યું મેં મારી પોએટ્રી બની એને શું કહેવાય એ નોટબુક એલેમને આપી અને મેં એવું પૂછ્યું નોટબુક એલેમને કે આ શું કહેવા માંગે છે ઓથર નોટબુક એલેમ એવું કહેવા માંગે છે જે હું કહેવા નહોતો માંગતો હું ક્લિયરલી કહું મારા મગજમાં નોટબુક એલેમે એટલું અદ્ભુત વિવરણ એમ કરી આપ્યું કે મેં જ્યારે તે સમયે 2-3 લાઈન લખી હતી ને એવું તો મેં વિચાર્યું નહોતું. Is it a problem?
We have to specific for that कि हमें context proper context માં એને દેવું પડે કે તમારે કયા કોન્ટેક્સ્ટ માં એને જોતું છે અને એ હ્યુમન જેટલું કામ કરે એવું મશીન તો ન
એને સારું કામ કર્યું મારો problem is it was very good that the person who wrote did not realize that he wrote that the context ઘણા બધા offshoots આવે ને તમારા લખાણના ઘણા offshoots આવે તો એમાં offshoots તો મેં વિચાર્યા જ નહોતા એમ એટલે તમને તમારી ઉપર ઘણી વાર ગર્વ થઈ જાય
એટલે એની પાસે ડેટા એટલો બધો હોય કે એને જે નજીકના શબ્દો હોય તો એ બધું
my prompt was very specific. Analyze this quotation on what was written. On the basis of the words that are written. On the basis of the words that are written. Nothing should be from around, but it was very good. So my problem is it is becoming very good. I observation છે બહુ સરસ presentation પણ મને notebook એલેમાં I don't know તમને આવું લાગ્યું છે કે નહીં ક્યારે પણ મને તો હમણાં જ આ એક્ઝામ્પલ 15-20 દિવસ પહેલાનો છું ને I was shocked.
I think he has considered the theory of deconstruction. He is deconstructing.
It is a quotation of 2 lines, 3 lines. 3 lines. It gave me explanation for 17 minutes. With such simple prompt, macros prompt. 17 minutes. Socio-cultural, psychosocial. કેટલા બધા aspects. એવા aspects મારા મગજમાં નતા. It is alien intelligence. Artificial nexus this is not artificial intelligence, this is alien intelligence. તમને ખબર જ નથી એવું કરે. Artificial માં ખબર પડે. And it is generating, not creating. That is the problem. So when something is generated, it is constructive in nature. So it is too explanatory, and somewhere the soul then sucks out. And it becomes mundane out. It was
That truly was an indeed good presentation. And now moving further, I would like to invite Divya Palendra and Kumkum Hirani. And the topic which they are going to present is biopolitical governance and technological surveillance, a comparative study of George Orwell's 1984 and contemporary surveillance culture. Everyone has filled out their signatures on the attendance sheet, right? Is anyone left? Okay, thank you.
So, hello everyone and good afternoon to all present here. I am Divya Palendra and this research paper writing by my co-author Kumkum Hirani So this research paper is operates title is Biopolitical Governance and Technological Surveillance, a comparative study of George Orwell's 1984 and comparative surveillance culture. This research facilitated a comparative examination of George Orwell's 1984 and contemporary surveillance, utilizing a biopolitical framework derived from Michel Foucault's theory of biopolitical power and governmentality. So this study is a research question: how do contemporary system of biopolitical governance and technological surveillance resemble or transform the mechanism of control depicted in 1984? Second one is how does the shift from visible surveillance in Orwell's dystopia to invisible digital surveillance affect individual behavior and the internalization of power? And the last one is what ethical challenges arise from the emergence of data-driven identity and algorithmic governance in modern society. Research objective is like analyze similarities between Orwell's fictional surveillance system and modern digital infrastructure such as social media platforms and biometric technologies. Apply Michel Foucault's theories of biopower and governmentality to explain how surveillance shapes behavior and social compliance, and evaluate the effect of mass surveillance on privacy, democratic accountability, and individual autonomy in contemporary societies. Hypothesis is the study advanced that contemporary surveillance culture does not represent an abandonment of the totalitarian logic found in 1984, but is rather its technologically sophisticated successor, one that replaces visible coercion with invisible normalization by amending monitoring into everyday social and economic participation, and how modern surveillance achieves a more complete internalization of the disciplinary gaze that Orwell's telescreen, as we know about, like how Big Brother watching us in that novel. So, and here the research methodology. The research follows a qualitative research methodology. It focuses on understanding of ideas, concepts, and theories rather than using numerical data. The study analyzed literary texts and theoretical concepts to examine how surveillance and power operates in both Orwell's 1984 novel and contemporary society. The research mainly uses Michel Foucault's the theory of biopolitics and governmentality to interpret the relationship between surveillance, power, and human behavior. Research method is the comparative analytic method. It compares the surveillance system described in 1984 with modern surveillance practices such as the digital monitoring, biometric technology, and algorithmic governance. Through this comparison, the research identifies similarity and differences between Orwell's dystopian society and contemporary surveillance culture. And also uses how textual analysis where specific concept and themes from the novel are examined and connected with the modern surveillance systems and theoretical ideas. As we know, the question of power operates over human life, bodies, and behavior has occupied political philosopher and sociologist and literary theories. This study is a comparison with modern surveillance and power. And here the theoretical framework from sovereign power to biopower. First one is disciplinary power exercised over individual bodies through observation, classifications, and normalization in institutions such as hospital, school, and prisons. Second one is the biopolitics. Biopolitics address the management of entire population, covering birth rates, mortalities, public health, and condition of life. As Means argues, Foucault's critique of state reason is a critique of how scientific and technological discourse legitimate the subjection of individual to governmental control while presenting the subjection as a neutral and rational. And here the Esposito's biopolitics and the negation of life. Esposito in biopolitics and philosophy, he extend Michel Foucault's the framework with a crucial and disturbing insight how biopolitics is a constitutive features of a modern political life, which is the governance of life always harbors and the potential for its negation. The same surveillance efforts that preserves social order can be deployed to eliminate those deemed to threat to the social bodies. So this and disciplinary power and panopticon. Michel Foucault's concept of a disciplinary power is closely connected with the idea of a panopticon, a prison design proposed by Jeremy Bentham. In the panopticon, prisoners can potentially be observed at all the times by guard and all located in the central tower, although they cannot determine whether they are actually being watched. This uncertainty leads individual to regulate their own behavior, and this theoretical model is relevant to both Orwell's dystopian surveillance system and modern digital monitoring technology. So this was from my side, and for more further information, I would like to invite my co-author Kumku.
First of all, thank you, Divya, and for the information. Like surveillance in 1984 in Orwell's dystopian society, surveillance is a central instrument of political control. The party used technological device known as a telescreen to monitor citizens continuously. These devices function both as a communication tool as a surveillance instrument that transmit information to the authority. Since citizens never know where they being observed, they are develop a constant awareness of a surveillance, which leads to self-regulation and obedience. So we also all know are that in 1984 how we all time instant show by this telescreen. Also in contemporary time we have like CCTV camera. So people cannot freely live. They have to behave in a manner, so to say, and psychological control in a newspeak and double thing. So beyond the physical surveillance, Orwell's dystopian also involves psychological mechanism designed to control thought and language. The party introduced newspeak, a simplified language intended to eliminate words associated with rebellion or a dissent. By restricting language, the party limits individual ability to the concept of the resistance. Another ideology tool is the double think, which trains citizens to accept contradictory beliefs. Similarly, this mechanism demonstrates how totalitarianism power extends beyond the control of bodies to the control of conscience itself. Also, in 1984, Big Brother said that like war is peace, freedom is slavery. So somehow he tried to control people's mind. And contemporary digital surveillance. So in contemporary society, also surveillance is increasingly embedded within digital technologies. Also, the data is processed by algorithms that analyze behavioral pattern and the general predict model used for advertising, marketing, and political influence. Surveillance capitalism. So Zuboff described the modern digital economy as a surveillance capitalism, a system in which corporations collect to monetize personal data generated through the online activity. Although the individual voluntaries participate in a digital platform, the activity generates extensive data that can be used to monitor, predict, and shape social behavior. Biometric surveillance, like modern surveillance, also include the use of biometric technology, which monitor individuals through the unique biological characteristics. Here are the example of the Snowden revelation. Like a significant example of the contemporary surveillance emerged in 2013 when Edward Snowden exposed clarified information about the large-scale monitoring programs conducted by the intelligence agency. Also, And they're collecting digital data from millions of users through the program such as Prism. Here the comparative. Okay. In the conclusion, the study showed that contemporary surveillance culture is not entirely different from the surveillance system depicted in George Orwell's 1984 and as well as in the contemporary time. Here are the references. And thank you. If you have any questions. Maybe both are different because that time is dystopian literature and that time maybe it is a wartime. In also in a contemporary time, people are not think on maybe same way.
Concept of Big Brother is the 1984.
But Big Brother is trying to control people's mind and their thought. Maybe in a contemporary time, we have lots of technology, like CCTV camera and other things. People by themselves they have to control. No one directly control them. Maybe.
Objectives are the same. Objective of having CCTV camera, the objective of having CCTV or whatever it was in the novel, are the objectives the same?
Yes.
Same. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya and Kumkum. That was indeed a good presentation. Next up, we have Chetna Bhalia, and she is going to present on biopolitics, technoscience, and the post-human body, gendered ethics, and embodied.
Hello everyone. Myself Chetna Bhalia. I'm a semester 2 student in the Department of English at the Maharaja Krishna Kumar C.G. Bhavnagar University. My research title is Biopolitics, Technoscience and the Post-Human Body, Gendered Ethics and Embodied Resistance, a comparative study of the Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go. Table of contents. Abstract. This study compares The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood and Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro to show how modern power controls human bodies and life. Using biopolitics by Michel Foucault, it explained how women in The Handmaid's Tale are controlled for reproductions, while clones in Never Let Me Go are created for organ donation. The study shows how power and technology treat human bodies as a resource, but also highlight small form of resistance through memory and resistance. Biopolitics and technology reshapes the life. Like modern society use political and scientific system to control how we live, how bodies functions, and what human life is considering valuable. In the Handmaid's Tale, Handmaid's Tale, in the Gleeland, there is a context in the Gleeland, the Republic of Gleeland. Women are valued mainly for their ability to have children. Their bodies are controlled and their reproductive capacity is treated as a tool for population management. In Never Let Me Go, in Ishiguro's dystopian world, like clone individuals are created for the purpose of organ donations. Their lives are planned and controlled to serve biomedical needs. Like, despite strict control, the protagonists find a way to resist. They use their memories, tell their own stories, and form of personal relationships to maintain some freedom and identity.
My research question is how do the Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go to represent the biopolitical regimes that regulate, optimize, and instrumentalizations biological existence, and how do these regimes redefine the ethical values of women and post-human life? In what ways does technoscience functions as the material and ideological mechanism through which biopolitical authority is exercised in both the novels, particularly in the relations to reproductions and cloning? How do the novels construct post-human subjectivities, and how do these representations challenge liberal humanistic notions of autonomy, personalhood, and moral recognitions? How are gendered ethics hierarchies produced within biopolitical and technoscientific system, and how do embodied practices of memory, narrations, and affect operate as a form of resistance against life administrating regimes? This study hypothesized that the Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go articulate a convergent biopolitical reasons in which technoscientific rationality functions as a mechanism of governance that regulate the reproductions, cloning, and the bodily life, systematically commodifying a gendered and post-human subject as a biological resources. Drawing upon the Foucault's theory of the biopower and British post-humanism, the study argues that these novels demonstrate how modern power operates through the administration and the optimizations of the life itself. My research gap is that this studies addresses the lack of the unified comparative analysis of Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale and the Kazuo Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go, focusing how both novels depict the governance of life through biopolitical, technoscientific, and post-human framework. Research objective. Literature review, scholars are focused on primary studies in examine reproductive control, cloning, and dystopian governance in Handmaid's Tale, feminist critiques. So they are studied in the different way, like the feminist studies like the cloning and the biopolitical individually, but not the comparative lenses. This study provides a holistic comparative framework like connecting life governance, ethics, and resistance across human and post-human context. Biopolitics and governance of life. Foucault's theory, like biopower regulates, manages, and optimizes life governance embodied in everyday practices. Again, like bare life, it also similar individual exists legally excluded but biologically essential. Handmade and clones exemplifies this duality. If we applications in the novels like Handmaids, like fertility as the ethical currency, women's bodies governed not for reproductive ends. In Never Let Me Go, clones' bodies regulated for organ harvesting, like autonomy denied. Post-humanism and technoscientific embodiment. In Never Let Me Go, like clones biologically optimized but denied moral recognition. Relations memories persist. If we saw in the novel's context, like Kathy recalls friendships and love, asserting ethical existence despite institutional denial. In Handmaids, women's identity reduced to reproductive roles, like offered internal narrations preserves subjectivity. Like he said that she said that like I would like to believe this is a story I'm telling. I need to believe it. I need to believe it. Gendered ethics and technoscientific governance. So, in aspect of gender and ethics, bioethical and technoscience, and if we see the analysis and the contributions of both the novels, the both novels demonstrated the regulations of the bodies through gender, ethics, and technoscientific ethical values assigned based on the functions, not inherent dignity. Methodology, like qualitative and interpretive based on close reading of both the novels, combines literary criticism with the Foucault's biopolitics, Rose's technoscience, and Brodetis like post-humanism. Like both the novels, like Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go, depict a biological existence as a politically and technologically controlled, allow analysis of hierarchies, ethical regulations, and the resistance in the human and post-human context. Theoretical framework. Life becomes a political object where power regulates and manages human bodies. In the study, this concept explains how reproductive bodies in the Handmaid's Tale and clones' bodies in Never Let Me Go are controlled and organized
by social and political system. Technoscience, scientific knowledge and technological system, regulate biological life in both the novels. Medical monitoring, reproductive control, and organ donation system demonstrated how technology become a tool of governance. Clones are created in the lab through the with the help of the scientists. These theories provide the conceptual lens for analyzing how power, technology, and ethics shapes the governance of life and possibilities of resistance in both the novels. Biopolitical regulations in both the novels shows that bodies become tool for political and ethical calculations. Technoscience as the governors, fertility test, medical monitoring, and the ceremony regulates women reproductive bodies in the handmaid's tale. Laboratories and medical institutions organize the leaves of clones for organ donation in Never Let Me Go. Post-human subject formations, like both the novel shows that ethical recognitions become dependent on the biological functions, revealing how biopolitical system challenges traditions, ideas of women dignities. Gendered ethical hierarchies from theories like Butler's gender as a performative focused biopolitical governors. Then clones devoluted created for organ donations, when Tommy said, we are here to donate. That's all there is to it. So it is a textual analysis. Textual analysis. Okay. Embodied resistance, resistance relations and embodied, showing biopolitical and techno-scientific power cannot erase subjectivity, memory, and moral recognition. Comparative senses, if we compare both the novels at the lens of some particular theories, like literature reveals the ethical consistency of the governing life, demonstrating that although bodies are systematically regulated, rationality, moral wellness, and the personal subjectivity continues to persist. Critical discussions, if we see the key insight from this, although biopolitical and techno-scientific system attempts to control and commodify life, memory, relationship, and moral consciousness persist as a subtle form of the resistance. Here is the synthesis of all the paper, and biopoliticals and the post-human body, a dystopian synthesis. And both the novels, both the novels, The Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go, illustrate how modern regimes governs life through biopolitical control and techno-scientific systems that regulate bodies, reproductions, and biological process. While biopolitical and techno-scientific governance attempt a fully regulated life, literature reveals the enduring presence of ethical awareness with relation identity and subtle forms of resistance. And these are the contributions, a research field as important comparative gap by examining The Handmaid's Tale and Never Let Me Go together through the combined lenses of biopolitics, technoscience, and post-humanism. The study provides critical insight into the questions of ethics, agency, and the subject formations of the contemporary dystopian narratives, helping us understand how human and post-human identities are negotiated within the technological, meditated, and biopolitical system. So these are my references, and thank you so much.
Technology affects the brain production. Is it so? How can you say that?
I just meant I am in my knowledge, as per my knowledge, I'm saying that there is some scenes in the novel, Never Let Me Go, Never Let Me Go, when the scientists are collected DNA from the possible persons, and when they are research on that, and their research that, and in the laboratories they are created a clones in there. So you can say that it is a chemical process. It is something like in the laboratory work, which is affect a little bit a scientific aspect also there.
Thank you, Chetna. That indeed gave a good amalgamation of Science and Literature. And next we have Khushi Ravia, and her research is focusing on the topic Dreaming the Post-Human, Cyborg Feminism and Technological Utopia in Sultana's Dream.
Please keep us.
So, hello everyone, myself Khushi Ravia, and my today's topic is Dreaming the Post-Human, Cyborg Feminism and Technological Utopia in Sultana's Dream. This is table of contents. In abstract, Sultana's Dream by Ruqayya Sekhawat Hussain through the theoretical lenses of cyber feminism, post-humanism, and to argue that the next anticipates key debates in feminist technoscience and speculative thought. While narrative has often been read an early feminist utopia or satirical inversions of Pardah culture, and this study contents that Ladyland and represent more than a gender reversed society and is imagines a proto post-human order in which technology reconfigures identity, power, and embodiment. This introduction. So my research gap is in this text is the critique of patriarchal society, and most scholarship focuses primarily on its gender role and reversal and social satire. These are a research question. How does Sultana's Dream by Ruqayya Sekhawat Hussain challenges patriarchal social structure through its depiction of feminist utopian society, and in way the narrative represented science and technology as a tool of feminist empowerment and social transformation, and the technological imagination of Ladyland be interpreted through the theoretical perspectives of cyber feminism and post-humanism. These are research objectives. Research method is a qualitative textual analysis and close reading of gender roles, science and technology, and feminism utopian imagination. And methodology is a study based on feminist literary criticism, and cyber feminism by Donna Harvey, and post-humanism by Rosie Braidotti. Sultana's Dream is a short story written by Ruqayya Sekhawat Hussain in 1905 during colonial Bengal, and originally published in India's ladies magazine Madras. And its narrative present a dream vision of a ladyland and a society where women govern the country and control scientifically research. And in this land is confined to the Mardana and reversing the traditional Zenana Parda system imposed on women. And its story highlights the importance of women's education, scientific innovation, and peaceful governance. And it's considered on the earlier works of feminist science fiction in South Asian literature and imaging of how technology and knowledge can transform gender relations. So this is by Notebook Elam is a Mardana system, and it's the old world and Ladyland. So here are difference between old world and Ladyland. In the old world, they are working 7 hours, and in the Ladyland, they working only 2 hours. And Difference between different is in the old world is physical strength and guns, and in Latin is the brain power and solar rise. And traveling is in the old world is railroads and mud, and in Latin is the electrical air cars and mossy paths. Feminist utopian theory is literature images alternative social system beyond patriarchy, and it reveals that gender inequality and socially constructed. And feminist utopian writing dismantles oppressive culture narratives and proposes new social possibilities. In Sultana's dream is ladies who rule over the country and control all social matters. Feminist technoscience. In this examines how science and technology are shaped by gender politics, and it argues that scientific knowledge is not inherently masculine, and women's participants can transform technological development. And in Ladyland, science prompts renewable energy, peace, and environmental sustainability, and they were able to okay. Able to draw water from the atmosphere and collect heat from the sun. Is cyber feminism by Dora Harvey. In this cyber theory is challenges tradition binary, male versus female, nature versus technology, and human versus machine. In post-humanism is theory questions the idea of fixed human identity, and is key ideas of rejection of biological determinism, technological meditation of identity, and hybrid human machine system. So patriarchal society and Zenana system in Sultana's dream. So in this, it's described woman's condition, and his famous quote is, in India man is lord and master. He has taken to himself all powers and privileges and shut up the woman in the Zenana. So it's represent social and political power. Here is historical Janana, and second one is fiction Mardana in Sultana's dream. Reversal of gender roles. So woman governor society and men live in Mardana, and its reversal exposes the constructor nature of patriarchy. And science and education. So in Sultana's dream is the queen is like science very much. So she circulated and ordered that all the women in her country should be educated. So she establishing school and universities for girls, and delaying early marriages and promoting scientific research. And education becomes the foundation of technological progress. Technology in Leyland is solar energy, solar cooking system, renewable energy, air cars, and flying vehicles, and weather control. And they also using hydrogen balls and force of gravity, and blades were worked by electricity. And it's symbolize empowerment and post-human mobility. Science versus militarism, where male society represent war and militarism, and Leyland represents science, intellectual innovation, and peaceful defense. And the lady principal restrains them and said they should reply not by word but by deed if ever they got the opportunity. In the conclusion, Sultana's dream is a pioneering feminist science fiction text. The narrative critiques a patriarchal system through utopian imagination, and Ruqayya links science, technology, and gender equality in Ladyland, and through cyber feminism, feminist technoscience, and post futures. So this is an overview of the presentation, and these are my references. And thank you.
questions and it's a good critical comprehension.
Is there a reference to producing designer babies in this program?
I'm not fine.
We are there must be number of this.
Different references, and I am combined all the differences and make one. Thank you.
That truly gave a new lens to feminism. Thank you, Kushi. And up next, we have Bhumi Mahida and Smruti Vater, and they are presenting on the topic Fabricated in the Flood, the unnatural human archetypal myth and the literary tradition of the synthetic being in the Great Flood. And
Don't really want to explain your key points. We not go on reading all the things.
and you have the time duration of 8 to 10 minutes, so please keep the time duration in mind.
I expect present paper is not to read it, but to explain your main idea.
She creates diagrams and then you could. Only when that.
Good evening, everybody. Today our topic is the fabricated in the flood, the unnatural human archetype myth, and the literary tradition on the synthetic being in the Great Flood. This abstract, this paper proposed a dual framework, critical reading of the Great Flood, this Korean movie, recently released in 2025, and along with this, we have taken two texts, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and another one is Kazuo Ishiguro's Clara and the Sun. And this paper argues that the three texts continuous coherent 200 years literary and archetypal sequences. So the Great Mother archetype denied in Shelley in the Frankenstein and devotionally reproduced, but permanently unverifiable in Ishiguro and scientifically reconstructed through 21,499 these iterations of simulated maternal trauma in Korean film. This and another thing is bringing together the Northrop Frye's archetypal theory, and another is Carl Jung's theory of collective unconsciousness, and alongside Emilia DeFalco's theory of post-human care. These are research questions. So how does the film activate and transform archetypal structure, the Great Mother, pure eternus, winter mythos, and within a scientific framework? And how does it develop the denied love of Frankenstein and the ambiguous devotion of Clara and the Sun into a reconstructed and verified maternal bond? And does the scientific apparatus of the film function as the antagonist to literary humanistic value or as their most powerful contemporary articulation? And research objectives are to conduct a comparative archetypal analysis of the three texts and to apply this Northrop Frye and Carl Jung's frameworks to Korean speculative cinema, and to evaluate the philosophical coherence of the emotion engine through post-humanist care theory, and another is to demonstrate that science in this film is stimulative and antagonistic to literary archetypal imagination. And this is the hypothesis. So let's begin with the introduction. So the Great Flood Korean movie re-examines the one of the literary's oldest question, that what makes a human human, and can that essence be manufactured? So although framed by planetary
extinction level flood. The film centers on a unique register of synthetic humanity. So in this, the one character is Anna, is a biological human, and but her consciousness is digitized and subjected into the 21,499 iterations of laws by the emotion engine. The emotion engine is the her son. Giant is an android child built from her AI code. So it is Anna's motherhood, not her personhood. This position within the tradition begun by Frankenstein and continuing Clara and the Son. So the film is read through the archetypal framework of Northrop Frye, Carl Jung, and Emilia DeFalco's theory of post-human care. So first is a theoretical framework. So first is Northrop Frye. As we know that his two main text is the archetype of literature and the anatomy of criticism. So in this, Northrop Frye give the seasonal structure that this spring, then summer, then autumn and winter. So here in this movie, he used the winter mythos. The planetary flood represents the myth of dissolution, chaos, and defeat of biological humanity. And this spring archetype, the emerge of synthetic race to repopulate Earth's completeness, the cycle, moving from dissolution and revival and resurrection. Second one is the Carl Jung. His theory is the great mother and pure eternals. Pure eternals represent the innocence in the child. So the narrative centers on the maternal bond, as we find the maternal bond in the particular in the film, the Great Flood, and the shadow and Promethean overreachers. So the film explore the dark consequences of technological ambition. And third is Emilia DeFalco's. Her theory is the ethic of post-human care and non-anthropocentric ethics. Care is viewed as a vibrant rationality, and the emotion engine technology acts the instrument of post-human care, where the 21,499 iterations of a simulation serve as the non-biological verification of maternal love. So here is the infographics created by Notebook LM. So here we can find the very brief information about the, all of three theories. The main is the Frankenstein. So in Frankenstein, the artificial being suffers because it is not love. While in Clara and the Son, the artificial being appearance capable of love, but its authenticity remains uncertain. And Pepper argues that the Great Flood, the movie, moves beyond this uncertainty by proposing a scientific method. So in this modern Prometheus, we cannot find the great mother or everything. In this, the denied great mother, and from pure eternals to monstrous shadow, we can find in the Frankenstein, and the rational ethics of creation. So in this is not determined by its origin, but by the quality of love that breeds it. The creature described himself as an abortion because he was made, but not a mother. So into humanities and environmental extremities. The hostile setting of the original text anticipates the planetary flood of modern speculation fiction, and linking the origin of life to an environmental ethics to must answer up for scientific overreach. So this again this from Frankenstein, this infographic created by Notebook LM. For further information, I would like to invite Smriti Vadir.
First of all, thank you, Bhumi, for providing background. And so moving further, I would like to introduce make the introduction of the novel Clara and the Son. In Clara and the Son, we can find a synthetic human being or a synthetic robot that is being called in as an artificial friend in the novel. It is caring for a sick child, and it gives us the idea of synthetic care and synthetic love that gives us the idea of mother care as the Emilia DeFalco's theory of post-human care. So the unresolved tradition
as Ishiguro provides the most philosophical serious contribution to the tradition of a synthetic being by addressing the central problem of whether synthetic love is genuine or stimulated. The embryonic and emotion engine, Clara's feelings are not biological, predetermined, but acquired through iterative observation and the accumulation of evidence regarding human emotional logic. So, in Clara's devotion, sacrifice, and attentiveness, it remains ambiguous, and it leaves us with the authenticity of her love uncertain, as if her love is programmed by AI or its generators, or it is true as the synthetic human being can feel. So this gives us the idea of how Clara's attempt to care for a child becomes the uncertain question for us, that can synthetic being feel the way human being feels. So next is the Great Flood, science as the verification of love. So in the Great Flood, we can find the emotion engine and the iterative suffering, as Bhumi has mentioned. The resolving the ontological silence, while previous literatures like Clara and the Sun left us with the synthetic devotion as unresolvable mystery. The Great Flood uses technology to build, test, and prove that the authenticity of the Great Mother archetype, the DeFalco's post-human care theory. So the film enacts DeFalco's vibrant rationality, care produced through technology rather than biology. Crucially, Anna's humanity is not in question. What is post-human is the process by which her maternal love is formed. And in the movie, the Darwin Center's Promethean correction. So the Darwin Center's scientists act as overreachers with a conscience, and their mission is to ensure that the new race is not merely intelligent but emotionally complete. So this is the infographic of that, and it gives us that how mother archetype or maternal archetype is being moved through these three texts. So the synthetic mother concept, this shows us that the three texts, that archetypal sequence forms a 200-year literary argument about synthetic humanity and synthetic love. In Frankenstein, we can see that creation occur without nurturing care, and in Clara and the Sun, the maternal archetype appears in a synthetic form. Instead of that, two opposite text, we can see in the Great Flood that technology attempts to verify love through the emotion engine, and the archetype of the nurturing mother is tested scientifically through repeated simulations of Anna's emotional intelligence and her emotion as digitized. So this timeline illustrates how ideas about artificial life and emotion evolve across 2 centuries, and this emphasizes a movement from absence to performance and finally to verification of emotional bonds. So the conclusion, the Great Flood serves as the completion of a trajectory that began with Mary Shelley's catastrophic abandonment and continued through Ishiguro's unresolved